James Noel, and we're here today with Mrs. Navinia Wellington Ford from the National Certification Body of Jamaica, NCBJ. We'll be delving into what to expect during a Stage 1 audit for ISO 9001 Quality Management System. What are the steps in the certification process?
The certification process has three main steps that we will speak about. There are the pre-certification steps, the certification, and then decision making. Certification of your management system lasts for 3 years, and in that process there is the pre-certification step, which is number 1. We will talk about the materials such as contracting, quotation, and those are the elements that would come in the pre-certification step. Then you move on to step 2, which is your certification step. In that step now you have your audits, your stage 1 audits, your stage 2 audits. And as I said before, certification lasts for 3 years, and in the 3-year period you will also have surveillance audit. You have 2 surveillance audits. Before you move on to surveillance audit though, you do have the decision making step. And in that step, it is when the result of your audit is evaluated and a decision is made as to whether to grant you certification to ISO 9001.
Okay, so what can a client expect during a Stage 1 audit?
For a Stage 1 audit, we say to our clients that this type of audit is really a readiness review. Right? So you get your application form, and the application form will cover certain aspects. For example, talk about the location of the company, the scope of the company, because all of that is necessary for us to make a decision if it is that we can work with you as a company, if we are able to offer you that certification. So then you have elements such as the readiness review. We have a checklist that we give to our clients, and we ask them to complete it. In this, they are providing additional information other than what is provided on the application form. It helps us and help the client to know where they are in terms of being ready for certification. A Stage 1 audit is, as I said before, commonly referred to as a readiness review. On this audit, the auditor is basically saying to the client, show me that you have met the requirements of the standard, right? Because the standard is a process-based standard, and it is laid out in clauses. So based on the inputs and the outputs of your system and based on the requirements of your industry, then on the Stage 1 audit you will have a discussion with the auditor to show that you have the elements that is required for us to move on to a Stage 2 audit, which is the real test audit where you go more into your system.
Okay, so we know there's a term non-conformities. Is that a part of Stage 1 audits?
For a Stage 1 audit, no. This is for a Stage 2 audit, and similarly for surveillance audit and so on. At a Stage 1 audit, what is issued to a client, if there are any audit finding, is referred to as areas of concern. A Stage 1 audit is really audit for you to have a discussion with the company, for the company to have a discussion with the auditor, and for the auditor to give a feedback as to where you are in terms of your starting point and being able to be certified. So on a Stage 1 audit, you are given areas of concerns. Now, while they're not treated or ranked as a non-conformity, they are there for consideration. The Stage 1 audit is you're given an audit report, and this a company should use as a guide to address their system and any findings, and making sure that they are prepared for the Stage 2. So for example, if it is that a Stage 1 audit is conducted and there is a missing element, for example, you have not defined the competency of your internal auditors, or maybe you have not defined the frequency of your internal audit program, then this can be issued to you as an area of concern.
So would something like that prevent you from moving on to the next stage, to stage 2?
It's a possibility. For a stage 1 audit, the conclusion at the end can be either you are recommend to proceed to stage 2 with no areas of concern, or recommend to proceed to stage 2 with areas of concern, or not recommended at all, meaning that there are just some major issues that are missing. There are some major elements that are missing that the company need more time to address before they can move on to stage 2. The most common finding that we have had as a certification body is where a client is ready to proceed to stage 2, however they have areas of concern. Now, for example, if it is that you have not done your internal audit or you have not done your management review, those things would have been written up as areas of concern, and you could be recommended to go on to your stage 2. However, bearing in mind that since these are shalls, as the standard will speak to them, it means that if you go on to a stage 2 audit without completing these, then you would be issued with a non-conformity. So the stage 1 audit can be looked at as a process or a stage where a company can use it to look at the gaps that are in the system, and then complete and finalize them before moving on to the stage 2 audit.
So does a client have to do like a corrective action plan for areas of concern and submit it?
No, they don't have to do a corrective action plan, because that would then, that is a link with non-conformity.
Non-conformity, and it's not like a non-conformity, okay.
Exactly. However, the client may be required to submit a response.
Okay.
Right? So dependent on the nature of the areas of concern or the level of the areas of concern, then we might ask for the client to submit a response before moving on to the stage 2. As I said before, it is only to the benefit of the client to address the areas of concerns before moving on to the stage 2 audit.
Stage 2 audit. Okay. So is the auditor in any way, for instance, a part of the certification decision?
No. The auditor, once they look at the system and the elements that the company is presenting as for their processes, they then make a recommendation. So the recommendation would be proceed to stage 2, don't proceed to stage 2, and so on. What is done in terms of the certification decision stage, that is done by an independent process. We refer to them as our evaluation committee. These persons are independent of the process. They have no contact at all with the client, with the audit package, save and except when it is that they are reviewing the findings, the compilation that the auditor would give to them for them to make a certification decision.
Alright, so an auditor does not decide whether or not a client gets certified. It's
no,
the committee.
Yes, you have an independent process, because as a certification body, especially as an accredited certification body, our certification decision must be able to held up to scrutiny.
Okay.
Right? So our certification decision must be done in an impartial way. One of the ways that you ensure impartiality is that there's a separation of your certification decision makers from your auditors.
Okay. Right. Alright. So what's an expected timeline for between the stage 1 and stage 2 audit?
That's a very good question, and let me tell you why. Sometimes our clients may want to take time to address the issue, and sometimes I think human nature, when you're doing a test, sometimes our clients think that, okay, your audit is a test. We want to say to them, relax. It's one of the easiest thing that you would ever experience in your organization. So clients will want to make sure that there's perfection in the system, right? But again, a system is a system, and there's always room for continuous improvement.
Yes.
For our processes, we say to our clients that there's a 6 months period between stage 1 audit and the stage 2 audit. If it is that 6 months expire, we have to redo the stage 1 audit. And nobody wants to redo the stage 1 audit. We want to move right along to certification, right? So we say to all clients that, remember, your stage 1 audit is an audit in that there's interaction between the auditor and the client. Interaction via face-to-face, telephone, looking at your documents. We want to remind our clients that stage 1 audit is different from, say, a document audit or an off-site audit. We get frequently asked, why do we need to schedule time for a stage 1 audit? Isn't it that the auditor just going to be looking at our records?
The papers.
Yes, right? So we are saying to clients, prospective clients that we're already working with, that there's a difference between a stage 1 audit and a document audit or an off-site audit.
So what's the difference between a stage 1 audit and a desk review?
A desk review is where an auditor is going over, for example, documented information from the client. So they might be looking at procedures, they might be looking at work instructions, they might be looking at the processes of the organization. With that type of audit, you don't tend to have a direct interaction between the auditor and the client. You have the client just looking at using the assigned time to look at the information that is provided by the client. Whereas with a stage 1 audit, there is a direct interaction. The client and the auditor will be interacting via interviews, via observation of the auditor, looking at what it is that the client is doing in their processes. So that is really the difference, and it really should not be confused. There is a distinct difference between the stage 1 audit and that of the, say, a document review or a desk review audit. There's a clear difference, and based on the type of questions we get, we realize that sometimes new clients might not realize the distinct difference. So we want to also ensure that we clarify that the stage 1 audit is a direct interaction, whereas a document audit or a desk audit might be just the auditor, the company providing the auditor with the information, and the auditor evaluate against the requirement.
Okay, so during a desk review, there's not much interaction, but stage 1, definitely
Yes.
back and forth interaction.
Yes. For a desk review, you don't necessarily have the interaction. You have for example, the client might email their documented information and send to the auditor. Then the auditor, using assigned time, will then go over those processes. However, during the stage 1 audit, that is a one-on-one, that's an interaction, right, face-to-face interaction. Whether we are doing, we're using information and communication technology, or we're using a face-to-face type of situation. It's a one-on-one.
Okay. I'm sure you must get this question. Why the initial certification has to be split in 2 stages? Why not just one audit?
Yes, we get that question a lot. Now, the requirement is laid out in our accreditation standard. Now, NCBJ is an accredited certification body, and we are proud of that. We are accredited to ISO IEC 17021 2015, which is basically the standard that all certification body has to abide by once it is that you're doing management system certification. And in that standard, it says that the initial certification must be done in 2 stages.
Okay.
So it must be done in a stage 1, which is the readiness review, and then a stage 2 audit, which is where the rubber hits the road. Right, so we can talk about that in another
yes,
session.
we're focusing on stage 1.
Yes, we're focusing on stage 1. So once it is that the client is with the NCBJ and we are at the stage 1 audit process, they are contacted and they are given an audit plan. Mentioned before what the audit plan will cover. The audit plan will cover the processes of the company as per the sequence and interaction of processes. The audit plan will communicate the flow of the audit for the period that is assigned, and the time that is assigned to the company is based on the requirement, the audit and requirement calculation that we have, and all certification body that is accredited have to abide by the same audit and calculation requirement. The audit plan is given to the company before, so the company, as for a stage 1 audit, the company is aware of the processes that will be audited. The company is aware of what is it that the auditor, the type of discussion that the auditor will be having with them. At the end of the audit, the company is given an audit report. Right?
Okay.
So we like to communicate. So as I said before, the company should use the audit report as a tool to ensure that they are preparing themselves fully for the stage 2 audit.
Yes.
So we communicate to the company via the audit report. So the auditor is given a specific amount of time to complete the audit report, and the company is expecting the audit report. We typically give our audit report within a week of the audit, so the company is able to use that audit report to move on to the process.
So before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to add or emphasize?
Well, for the NCBJ, we get a lot of questions. There is a little bit of a hesitancy with new clients, and we want to assure them that the NCBJ takes all processes and care to ensure that the certification process is as seamless as possible. We remove the teething pains, remove all the hesitancy of the process, and we do this by making sure that the requirements are clear, they're clearly communicated, they're clearly articulated, and we let our clients know. So we tend to get the question, is this a desk audit? Why do I need to schedule time? It's just a readiness review. So again, we want to emphasize that there's a difference. There's a difference with the stage 1 audit and a desk audit or an off-site audit. An off-site audit or a desk audit is where the auditor uses that time to process information that might have been provided by the client, while a stage 1 audit is a direct interaction with the client. The auditor interviews the client, the auditor observes the client to ensure that the evidence that is being gathered is a reflection of what is happening at the time of the audit, and to make a determination if it is that the client is ready to move on to stage 2. As said before, at the end of a stage 1 audit, there are 3 possible routes or possible recommendations. 1, the company is ready to move on to stage 2 with no areas of concern. 2, they may be ready to move on to stage 2 with areas of concern, or 3, they are not ready to move on to stage 2. We say to our clients that certification is a time-bound process. So if stage 1 is done, you have 6 months in which to complete the stage 2, or else the stage 1 will have to be redone. A client will be contacted regarding scheduling, when to schedule their audit, and this is based on a convenient date between both the client and also the auditor, after which we ensure that all the requirements, all the communication is done between the client and the NCBJ, utilizing our competent staff that are customer centric. We are fully focused on our customers. As I said before, we want to ensure that the certification process is, we move away from the teething pain, we move away from sometimes one client and say, boy, sometimes they think that certification would have been painful, but we don't want our clients to have that experience. We want our clients to have the experience that they have implemented, they have made this decision, this good decision to implement ISO 9001 in their organization, and they have made the good decision to choose the National Certification Body as their certification body. There are various means by which our clients can contact us: via telephone 876-618-5793, via our website at www.ncbj.org.jm. On our website, they're able to submit questions to us. They are able to submit a quote request to which we will respond. Then we are also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Any of those means, our clients are able to contact us because we ensure that we are available to be your certification body of choice.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford. So there you have it. What to expect during a Stage 1 audit for ISO 9001 Quality Management System. NCBJ, certify locally, compete globally.